Welcome to the story world. You can learn effective facts about life by subscribing the channel and turn on the notification bell for our next video. Let's start the video. Once upon a time, there lived a banker named John Turner. He had built his life around stability and numbers. For 15 years, he'd been a banker in a reputable institution, known for his sharp mind and dedication. He had a family to provide for, a home with a mortgage, and dreams for his children's futures. But life, as it often does, had other plans. One brisk November morning, the bank announced a wave of layoffs. John, a senior officer with a spotless record, found himself among the casualties. He sat in the sterile HR office, the words "we're letting you go" echoing in his mind. At 45, John was thrust into a world of uncertainty. Months passed, and rejection became a recurring theme in John's life. Job applications were ignored, interviews led nowhere, and savings dwindled. Depression began to creep in. He felt like a failure, unable to meet the eyes of his wife and children. One afternoon, unable to bear the walls of his home any longer, John took a walk to clear his mind. He found himself at a park near the city center. He sat on a weathered bench, lost in thought, when an old man shuffled over and took a seat beside him. The man had an air of wisdom, his face lined with years of experience. His clothes were modest but neat, and he carried a small wooden cane. The man looked at John for a moment and said, "You've got a storm in your eyes, son." John blinked, startled. "Excuse me?" "You look like a man who's lost something important," the old man said, his voice calm. "But storms don't last forever, you know." John, compelled by the stranger's presence, found himself pouring out his story, his career, the layoff, the weight of failure. When he finished, the old man nodded thoughtfully. "Let me tell you something," the man began. "I was once in your shoes. Decades ago, I owned a small business. It was my pride and joy. But one day, everything fell apart. A fire destroyed it all, and I was left with nothing. I thought my life was over." "What did you do?" John asked, leaning forward. "I rebuilt," the man said simply. "Not immediately, not perfectly, but I started again. I realized that the fire didn't destroy my skills, my knowledge, or my determination. It only destroyed the shell I'd built around those things." John frowned. "But where do you even start when you're at rock bottom?" The old man smiled. "By taking one small step forward. When the storm clears, you'll find that you've got more inside you than you ever realized. Start by asking yourself this: what's one thing you can do today to move forward? Just one." That question stayed with John as he walked home. He thought about it all night. What was one thing he could do? By morning, he had an answer. He decided to volunteer at a local financial literacy program, teaching underprivileged youth how to manage money. It wasn't a job, but it gave him purpose. As the weeks turned into months, John discovered a passion for helping others. His confidence began to rebuild itself, piece by piece. One of the program directors noticed his dedication and suggested he apply for a position at a nonprofit organization that needed a financial consultant. John hesitated. Was he ready? But he remembered the old man's advice. One step at a time. John applied and got the job. It was a far cry from his banking career, but it reignited his belief in his abilities. Over the next few years, John climbed the ladder again. Not in a bank, but in a world where his skills made a real difference. One day, as he walked through the same park where his journey began, he spotted the old man sitting on the same bench. John approached him with a smile. "Ah, the storm survivor," the old man said, recognizing him immediately. "How's the weather now?" "Clear skies," John replied, sitting down beside him. He shared how his life had transformed, how he'd found a new purpose and stability. The old man nodded, a glint of satisfaction in his eyes. "I told you storms don't last forever. They only prepare you for the next chapter." John left the park that day with a full heart. He realized that losing his job had been a turning point, not an ending. It had forced him to rediscover himself, to rebuild not just a career, but a life filled with meaning. The storm had passed, but the lessons it left behind would guide him forever. Thanks for watching the video. If you like this video, subscribe our channel and turn on with us for more exciting videos.